A lot of you may have heard about the Grim rule, which says that if you can't find the answer to a rules question, the players choose the option which they think is worse. When I first started playing, I didn't want to spend like 10 to 20 minutes trying to figure out the answer to every single rules question I had, so I would use the Grim rule a lot. But what it turns out is that I actually was overusing the Grim rule, and a lot of the rulings actually worked out in my favor. So this video is going to be about rules that work out to help you instead of hurt you. But even if you've been playing for a while, you might see something here that you didn't know about. I'm learning about rules all the time. It feels like every time I play, I learn a new rule. And if you find this video useful or you enjoy it, leave a like and subscribe. Thanks. Rule 1 will be about discarding off the top of the encounter deck. So if we're in a game state that looks like this, and then we get the Masters of Evil as our side scheme. It says, when revealed, discard cards from the encounter deck until a Masters of Evil minion is discarded and put that minion into play engaged with the first player. So then we would discard off the top of the encounter deck until we get specifically a Masters of Evil minion. But you'll notice in this case, I went through the entire encounter deck without getting one. So, based off this rule in the encounter deck, it says if a card ability discards a specified number of cards from the encounter deck or until a card with a specific criteria is discarded, discard cards from the encounter deck until the discard condition is met or the encounter deck is empty. If the encounter deck is emptied this way, that card ability is considered to be fulfilled. Do not continue the discard effect with the newly shuffled encounter deck. So, in this case, for scenario, we'd shuffle the encounter deck, and then we'd place one acceleration token on the main scheme, and then we will not discard until we get a new minion. This is a mistake I made a lot when I first started playing. Rule number 2, guard. So in this case scenario, there's the armored guard out, which says, while this minion is engaged with you, you cannot attack the villain. The keyword here is attack the villain. So since attack team is an action that says exhaust attack team and remove one attack counter from it, deal 2 damage to an enemy, you would still be able to deal that damage to Claw. So if in this situation, let's say Claw 2 had 2 health left, but you had guard and you're exhausted, you could actually win the game here by exhausting attack team, removing a counter, and then dealing 2 damage. And because this is an action that isn't an attack, it just deals damage, it bypasses guard, so you can win the game in this situation. Rule number 3 is retaliate. So in this situation, MODOK has retaliate 2, but he has 6 damage on him. Retaliate 2 is brutal, you do not want to take that damage. But if you look at the retaliate X keyword in the rulebook, it says that the character with retaliate X must survive the attack to deal this damage. So in this case scenario, Peter Parker, Spider-Man, could attack for 2, bringing MODOK to 8 damage. MODOK is defeated, and then no retaliate damage is dealt. Rule 4 is about overkill. So this next scenario is quite tricky and it will combine a few things that we've talked about. So in this situation, Armored Guard has 3 health, but not tough, and we have Relentless Assault in our hand. So we can pay 2, and then if you paid for this card using a physical resource, this attack gains overkill. So we discard the 2, and then Relentless Assault will deal 5 damage to Armored Guard. Since the Armored Guard only has 3 health, and this has overkill, then 2 damage will go on to Claw. There's a couple things about this. So if you check the overkill rule in the rulebook, it says simultaneously deal damage equal to the excess amount to the villain. Damage dealt by overkill to an identity or villain is considered damage from an attack, but does not constitute an attack against that character. So if you look at Armored Guard, while this minion is engaged with you, you cannot attack the villain. So this damage from overkill would go on to Claw, dealing 2 damage to Claw because it's 2 excess damage onto Armored Guard. The guard would not cancel this overkill damage because it's not an attack. And also in this situation where Claw has retaliate 1, you also would not take the retaliate damage because it does not constitute an attack, and retaliate only works on attacks. That one is quite tricky, but I assure you it works. Rule 5 is about the ally limit. So this says that each player is permitted to control a maximum of 3 allies in play at any given time, and this is referred to as the ally limit. A player may play or put into play allies beyond their ally limit. However, if a player ever controls a number of allies greater than their ally limit in play, they must immediately choose and discard from play ally cards they control until they have a number of allies in play equal to their ally limit, and this occurs before abilities that resolve upon entering play. So, an example of this would be, we already have 2 allies, so we could play Black Cat with 2 resources, force response, discard the top 2 from your deck, and add each with a printed mental to your hand. So then Maria Hill would come into our hand. So now we are at the ally limit. So if we want to play a new ally, for instance, let's say we want to play Nick Fury, we can use these 4 resources here. These 4 resources to pay for Nick Fury. Nick Fury comes into play. So based on this, you must immediately choose and discard from play allies you control until you have a number of allies in play equal to their limit. So we have 4 right now. So we choose and discard 1. Now we're back to 3. And then after that, Nick Fury's response would work, allowing us to draw 3 cards. And then if you wanted to play another ally, for instance, let's say we play Maria Hill, you would discard 2 cards, play Maria Hill. Now you're past your ally limit. You must immediately discard an ally. Let's say we discard Nick Fury, for instance. And that's how it works. Rule 6 is about tough. Tough is a status that prevents a character from taking damage, and when a hero with a tough status card defends an attack, they reduce the damage from the attack by their defense first. If the damage is reduced to 0, the hero does not lose their tough status card. So here's an example. Claw activates for an attack, getting 2 boost cards face down. That triggers Spider Sense to draw a card. Then we would decide to defend. So that we're blocking the damage by 3. Then we check the boost cards. So it was 0 attack plus 0 boost icons, 2 boost icons, bringing it to 2 attack total. So we reduce that to 0. Therefore, we don't take damage and we don't lose our tough status card. So we can save that for later. Rule 7 is about identity. Identity is a player card type that represents which character a player is playing in the game. So a player's identity card is a double-sided card that represents their hero on one side and their alter ego on the other side. The side that is face up indicates the hero or alter ego form that the player is currently in. So, an important thing to note about this is that if a card refers to a hero or alter ego by title, it refers only to the identity with that title and not to the other side of the card. So, in this situation, when Rhino comes out, we could do this, attack for 2, bringing Rhino to 0 health. Rhino 3 comes out, and then it says stun each hero. So, then we would be stunned. But there's a better way to do this. So, instead of doing it that way, what you could do is flip to alter ego form, then use Tack Team to deal 2 damage, flipping Rhino to his next side, and it says when revealed, stun each hero. But now, since we're an alter ego, that means we will not be stunned because that only refers to the hero and not the alter ego. Rule 8 is about status cards. The important thing about this is that a character cannot have more than 1 status card of each type at a time. So in this situation, if we were stunned already and we use Tack Team to deal 2 damage to Rhino, changing him to Rhino 3, it says stun each hero. We cannot be stunned twice. We can only be stunned once. And that can save you a lot of trouble. When I first got Star-Lord, I messed up on this. I had like 3 or 4 stun status cards each on my identity, and I lost really bad. But retrospect, I maybe could have won that if I knew that back then. Rule 9 is about quickstrike. So let's say you're playing Peter Parker, you get dealt Shadow of the Past. That means that Vulture and Vulture's side scheme will come into play, and these will shuffle into the encounter deck. And then Vulture has quickstrike, which says after this minion engages your hero, it attacks. So not everything says engages your hero. A lot of them later on just say quickstrike, which can make it easy to forget that quickstrike only works on an identity who is in hero form. So if I am an alter ego when this is revealed, I don't get attacked by quickstrike. Rule 10 is about ability limits. So if you notice, on Peter Parker's card, it says Scientist, Resource. Generate a mental resource limit once per round. But on hero side, it does not have a limit. So if a card doesn't have a limit, you can use it any time that it comes up. So for instance, if Rhino attacks me for 3, gets a boost card, triggers my ability, lets me draw a card, add that to my hand, and then he would deal the damage to me. And then, let's say I get an encounter card. That encounter card is assault. The villain will attack me again, getting a face-down boost card, and then let me draw another card. It's not limited. So Spider-Man will draw a card every single time that he gets attacked. And I've forgot that so many times while playing him, especially early on. Thanks for watching, and hopefully this was helpful. This is definitely something that I would have wanted to see when I started playing the game because, again, the Grim rule, I took it like way too seriously to where I did everything as if it was the worst case scenario, which caused me a lot of heartache. And hopefully whoever's watching this can, if you're a new player, you can avoid going through it. And if you're an experienced player, hopefully you at least were entertained or saw something that you learned from it. Again, leave a like and subscribe, and let me know what you think in the comments. Until next time, stay zesty. See ya.